Soliciting for what? How many times have you given someone a few dollars on the street or at their door because they're soliciting for some charity you've never heard of? And to not give makes you guilty. And how many of these people are legitimate? Soliciting for charity could be the easiest con game around. As long as there is a little bit of logos and a whole barrel of pathos, the cause is whitewashed under the guise of doing good. Nietzsche didn't think highly of benevolence. He said that one has to distinguish the instinct of submission in benevolence, according as the stronger or the weaker feels benevolent. Gladness and covetousness are united in the stronger person who wants to transform something to his function, gladness and desire to be coveted in the weaker person who would like to become a function. The former case is essentially pity, a pleasant excitation of the instinct of appropriation at the sight of the weak. It is to be remembered, however, that strong and weak are relative conceptions. Therefore, the idea of charity segregates people into strong and weak and forever keeps the assumed weaker members of society at a disadvantage, serving only to marginalize them. And yet, where would Stephen Hawking be, this Stephen Hawking's be of the world without the help and selfless behavior of others? There is a difference between pity and merging help with respect. So maybe I'm an optimist when I suggest that autism may be the one disability that may change the course of this kind of philanthropy, that may be able to jolt citizens into giving with knowledge as well as with heart. Autism is not just a disability. It is a way of being. It may be even viewed as a course of human evolution. Organizations that seek to fund this so-called mysterious and difficult disorder, who want to cure it, have waged this war upon our autistic population. Instead of listening to autistics, many deny the ability of autistics because it no longer serves the cause. We are finding ourselves in an intellectual and philosophical divide with those we are seeking to cure. Parents are confused and angry and hurt. After all, aren't they just good people trying to help their children by trying to cure autism? Shouldn't the parents who struggle day in and out, whose expectations have been taken from them, have pity bestowed upon them? To all these good people, I say no. As difficult as it may be or become, this is life's test, and these are the children who are born to us. The best thing about the future, said Abraham Lincoln, is that it comes one day at a time. I say we have time to reframe our expectations, lobby for accommodations, and find joy in autism. So autism requires donors to do their research and parents to listen and trust their autistic child and the adults from whom we can learn. I can think of many great reasons and projects to support autistic people instead of waging a war on them, and we really do have a lot of work to do. We need philanthropists to recognize there is a need for lifelong accommodations, education, and more. But charities and governments will succeed by talking to people with autism as the experts of it, alongside families. In the meantime, philanthropists need to fully understand the motives of fundraisers, therapists, and charities asking for money in order to cure autism and say no to the damage of inappropriate drama. Researchers who receive money from Autism Speaks also have an obligation to raise the issue. Suzanne Wright was once quoted as saying, "Autism is finally speaking, now the world will listen," at the inception of the organization. "Be brash, be emotional, be angry," added her husband Bob. "Don't accept it." When Adam was diagnosed, we were not only frightened, but we were offered one branch of hope. Do 40 hours of therapy or Adam would be doomed to a life of isolation or an autistic, quote, abyss. It was a quick prescription and it seemed worth a try. After all, we were told that because we diagnosed Adam so young, he would have a chance of recovering from autism, unlike other autistic children whose autism was diagnosed at 3 or more years of age. It seemed reasonable. We were told that we'd have to do it for about 2 years for Adam to become indistinguishable from the so-called normal. When the word spread that Adam was diagnosed, we received a deluge of calls, literally. Everyone claimed that Adam had to do this ABA therapy because it was, quote, the only scientifically proven way to cure autism. We began not a moment too soon. After all, this was war, right? We had to save Adam from the clutches of autism that threatened to suck him further away from us. Gary Myerson, in his introduction to Sabrina Freeman's Science for Sale in the Autism Wars, states that because of ABA therapy, quote, no longer does the diagnosis of autism necessarily have to be the equivalent of a death sentence. Take a really long look at that symbol they're using to represent autism. There's one thing I'm certain of when looking at it. It does not represent my son Adam. It does not respect him or celebrate his life. As an ABA movement focuses on representing autism as a prison that locks the child's true potential, or a living nightmare, espoused by our Canadian ABA advocates, I have to point it out because it seems that the only reason for death talk as opposed to life talk is for the purposes of raising money and arguing court cases. If the suggestion was never there in the first place that autism is like a death sentence, would we be in this frenzy we are today? Would I have been so panicked at the time of Adam's diagnosis? More often than not, parents are in tears over the problems getting their autistic kids into schools and being valued and accepted there. Would we be having this trouble if autistic children were viewed in a more positive light with the potential to achieve? Adam's occupational therapist recently revealed to me that she has staff members who don't want to work with autistic children because, quote, they see no reward in it. What stands out is not a quest to accept disability and to help an autistic succeed with autism. Rather, this is a quest to ameliorate autism, which still science cannot explain and may never be able to. Professionals and advocates have a responsibility to listen to autistic people and respect the fact that there are families like mine who don't want to live like this, who don't want to live in a landscape of daily despair. I want Adam to have every opportunity to be included in schools and to be respected by his peers and his teachers. I want to spend time with my son, not worry about every moment of the day, about what may become of him. What I want is some happiness and some quality in our lives. Daryl Treffert calls autism, quote, another drop in the pond of diversity. In other words, as Kim Peek, the real Rain Man, says, we don't have to be handicapped to be different because we're all different. Are we now coming to understand and appreciate that there are different minds out there, each valuable and which have something to offer? What does accepting autism really mean, and how may we redefine it so that we can live full lives with autism? Autism acceptance means something different to everyone, it seems. Some parents have more to deal with than others, and some are better at coping than others. So we need to find ways of supporting autistic people and the parents who care for them. If an autistic person needs a medication for anxiety and you give it, it doesn't mean you're not accepting autism. If you use a tool to teach so that your autistic